I'm Evelyn, and I'm a Geoholic.
Let's go.
I like this song. It really gets you going.
It does, doesn't it? It's a good one. It is a good one. I'm so glad our guest this evening picked Genesis. First time.
Yeah.
First time.
Is it first time?
It's the first time ever.
Well, I'm glad he picked this one and not the other one that takes like 30 minutes to lead up to.
That's like every other Genesis song.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Welcome back, Geoholics, episode 274.
274.
Yes.
Moving right along.
Just about to hit another landmark, 275.
Sure.
I'd consider that a landmark. Every 25, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
One step closer to 300, regardless. Gosh, it's good to be back.
It is good to be
back in the studio. We got a busy few months coming up. That's
we
for
do.
Sure.
We do. Well, busy year.
Happening. Yes. You know what I want to do, though? I want to take a moment here because I'm going to consider this our first show with all of our new friends of the program for 2026.
Oh, yes. We have finalized our friends of the program.
The list is final as of last Friday. No, as of yesterday.
As of yesterday.
There was a late arrival to the party, but they had a good excuse. So, but I'm going to run through the list. I know this is a little lengthy, but I got to give credit where credit's due.
Sure.
Right off the bat, Altair Central back with us. David Evans and Associates back with us. Emlid back. Diamondback Land Surveying back for another year. Esri, 12D Synergy, new for 2026.
Yeah. We're going to hear a lot about 12D this year.
Indeed. And we will be in Brisbane in July.
We will.
For the 12D Synergy Conference.
That's correct.
Super excited
I think
about
it's a tech summit of some sort.
So it's a summit. Yeah. All I know is we'll be there.
Yeah.
I think we might even be keynote speakers at that
I believe so.
Oh,
that's the rumor.
My goodness.
You got that all ready to go?
We're working on it.
Okay.
It's behind the scenes. Trimble back, Hexagon back, Point Terra.
That's a new one.
For
Yeah.
2026. Excited about that. Topodot, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Love Ted and the crew there. Mach 9.
Yeah.
New for 2026.
Alex there, right? Alex and his crew.
Yep,
Yeah. That's good.
Infold ROI.
Yeah, that's a new one.
New one. 4M Analytics. New for 2026.
Yeah.
Navis.
Yeah. We talked to a lot of Navis, but now glad to have them on board.
Yep. There's been a lot of courting with them the last few years. And finally made it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Smart Drone back with us. Monson Engineering.
Been from the beginning, right?
Monson?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They're original 6 or whatever. Aerotech Mapping.
Yeah.
Excited to have them back. Safety Apparel. Love Matt and what he does for us every year. Carlson Software. Datamate. New.
Yeah.
For 2026. Geo Plus. Our good friend Sam.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. On board 2026.
We got a Canadian in here, right?
We do. Yep. And Lincoln.
Yeah, little known engineering shop.
Yeah, we got a little connection there. Russ is smiling. He gets credit for that one.
Yeah, he does. We appreciate Russ.
Really excited to have them on board. It's going to be a great year. We're going to do some awesome things with all of our friends of the program. And 2026 is going to be great.
Oh, it is. I'm excited already.
A few things coming up. We've got Geo Week here in a few weeks.
We do.
We will be there. The Western Surveyors Conference in March in Las Vegas.
Turns out that they wanted a little bit of Geoholics action.
Did.
So they met and they voted, and guess what? We're going.
We'll be there. Looking forward to that one, of course. That should be a really good turnout. And the ASPRS conference in Nickel State, I believe, just outside of New Orleans.
Oh, wow. That's right.
Thibodaux, Louisiana.
Okay.
Never been there before. So really excited about that one. And of course, this episode is powered by Emlid, making aerial and terrestrial surveys faster and easier than ever before. To find out more, go to emlid.com. What's new with you, buddy?
Oh, not a whole lot, actually. A lot of exciting things happening in the in the world outside of what you read on the news. So I recommend don't.
I've stopped, honestly, the last 3 weeks.
I'm done.
I haven't turned the news
There's
on.
just so much cool stuff going on as far as work goes, and massive big projects, and the 2026 is really shaping up to be being something, and it's going to be an exciting year. Other than that, just trying to get ready for this year, getting excited about the Open.
Open's coming up.
That's such a great time this time
Biggest
of year,
party of the
being
year
in Phoenix. So you know what? Just really enjoying life. I must say.
I love it.
What about you?
Same. Enjoying life.
Getting ready to be a grandpa, right?
Yep. First one's due in about 3 weeks. And then about 3 weeks after that. No, not 3 weeks. What am I talking
3
about?
months.
Nope. March 10th. That's like 7 weeks.
Okay. Yeah.
And then April 1st.
Do they have names picked out?
Weston.
Sean and Shauna.
Weston Sean Wofford.
Love it.
Propose that.
Okay. I like it. That has a nice ring to it.
Yep. And then Presley having a girl, Olivia.
Shauna.
Toodaloo.
I mean, it just rolls off the tongue. It just rolls off the tongue. I love it.
So yeah, lots of cool stuff happening this year. Super excited. Just excited in general, man. I knew like right when the switched over to 2026 that it's going to be a good year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So looking forward to all the exciting things ahead of us. Our weekly updates are brought to you by Topodot, leading the way in point cloud feature extraction and data governance. To find out more, go to topodot.com.
Yeah, check out the conference, the user conference.
Yeah,
Tuck is coming up as well. Yeah, they got some info on that. Here's some big things are happening.
Yeah. The registration's open, I believe.
Yeah,
early bird pricing.
Yeah, it's open right now.
Yep.
You want to hear about that opening song?
I do, absolutely.
Do you let the cat? Wait, no, hang on. We forgot one thing. Our good friend Russ is here.
Oh my God.
We didn't catch up with Russ.
We gave him credit for the guest.
We did.
And the FOTP.
And then ignored him. Russ, what's up with you, buddy? What's new in your world?
Hey, guys. How have you been? I am now a grandfather, Papa.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
what is your grandfather name?
It's Papa Russ.
Papa Russ? Love
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Papa
I
Russ.
really like it.
I have changed all my video game handles, everything to Papa Russ.
My
so that people know they're being beaten at a video game by a grandfather. I take much pride in that.
That's awesome.
Well, congratulations, buddy. We're happy for you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to mention when you're going through the friends of the program, it's funny. A lot of those are friends with a lot of them. And it's nice to see, whether we bonded over geospatial or alcohol, whatever reason. No, they're all great people and friends of the program. Yeah,
I'm excited about our lineup.
It's an impressive list
of friends of the program this year. I mean, it is starting to be the who's who in the geospatial community.
I think we've arrived.
Well, they've arrived, and they're just dragging us along, and we appreciate that.
Finally figured it out.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome.
All right, I appreciate that, Russ. Getting to our song of the week. I'll just jump here. Our song of the week is brought to you by Altera Central, your Trimble dealer for all
Taking
things
control.
survey,
I like
mapping, and even marine gear. Also, if your drone falls out of the sky and you need to replace one, call those guys as well. They've got some people that can help you out there. To find out more, alteracentral.com, or you can go to the geoholics.com, click on Marketplace, find that used gear from Altera Central, and it will get you there.
Absolutely.
That song, everybody knows them. Pretty famous group. Genesis. Song is Turn It On Again. Genesis is an English rock band formed in 1967. That was a long time ago.
That's a good year, by the way. A lot of good things happened in 1967.
Yeah, sure. They're formed at the Charterhouse School in Surrey, widely regarded as one of the most successful and influential groups in music history, with 100 to 150 million albums sold worldwide. That's a pretty big spread
number
there, but it is a big number. And known for their dramatic shift from progressive rock to mainstream pop, the band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2010.
And what's 50 million between friends?
I mean, who knows? Back then, the data collection wasn't what it was now, so it could easily be.
They're an interesting band. I mean, I've been a fan of Genesis, but I've never hopped on the Genesis bus completely. They're just, I don't know, a different kind of music. The old stuff is just, you got to be pretty freaking stoned to listen to it and appreciate it.
Well, it was they formed in 67, but it was mostly late 70s and 80s when they really kind of took off.
Kind of hit mainstream, I guess.
Yeah, and wasn't Bill, was he Collins? The drummer and the singer?
I believe so.
Yeah, he's one of those rare drummer lead singer deals.
Yep.
Yeah. It doesn't happen a lot. Yeah.
Deals.
Right
on. Our song of the week is brought to you by Altera Central.
I already told him that.
Wait, It's in red. I just thought I was supposed to read it. I'm just like, hold on a second.
You're just like Ron Burgundy, right? You just see something and read it blindly.
San Diego.
I love it.
San Diego. All right. Next up is our Leica Geosystems Weekly Pro Tip. A little different spin here.
I like this.
Yes.
All right.
Go
For
for
our
it.
weekly pro tip, use visual positioning to capture every moment you need in a single pass
Or measurement.
when using Leica GNSS systems like GS18I with visual positioning technology. Make sure to capture comprehensive image groups as you walk the site. This enables you to pull any measurement you need later in the office without returning to the field. There's a big benefit there, and it saves time in reducing costly return visits. Find out more, go to Leica-geosystems.com.
That's some good advice right there.
It is.
If that doesn't save you time and money, I don't know what will.
I mean, really.
Exactly. All right, let's get our guest in here. He's anxiously waiting. Super excited to have this gentleman on the show. Our guest this week is, of course, brought to you by David Evans and Associates. To find out more about the DEA difference, visit DEAINC.com. And I can tell you the DEA difference is more real than ever right now. I spent 3 days last week in the Survey and Geomatics Leadership Conference, or Summit, I should say, right here in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
And it was amazing 3 days. Tons of incredible takeaways. Love the direction the Survey and Geomatics group is going, and excited about the DEA difference.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. To find out more, as I said, DEAINC.com.
All right.
Hiring. FYI.
Let's get our guest in here.
Our guest is Gordo Perry. He goes by Gordo. Gordon is his first name, goes by Gordo. Gordo Perry. He's from
little town
called Detroit, Michigan, born and raised.
Oh, nice.
He attended Lansing Community College in Lansing, Michigan. Good Midwestern guy. Love the Midwest guys. Job is geospatial system development specialist. His hobbies and passions include LiDAR applications in general. We're going to talk a lot about that tonight. Surveying and mapping, developing sub-consultant relationships. Outside of work, loves his wife, sailing, and their Labrador retrievers.
Oh, nice.
Gordo, welcome to the Geoholics. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, it's a great pleasure to be here, guys. I really appreciate the invite, Russ.
Yeah, Russ. Way to go, Russ.
We appreciate Russ for making this connection.
Every once in a while, Russ brings a quality guest.
You know, he does follow. He does add value every once in a while.
Yes. We couldn't do it without him. Let's just put it that way.
I am very excited for Gordo to be here because he is one of the foremost experts on all things rail and geospatial that I've ever met.
That's awesome. Russ, how do you know Gordo?
I had to win him over. Through work. We knew a bunch of right, like we kind of knew people that knew we had a common Jason and Steve Waldemer.
Yep.
And then we had new mutuals basically. And then we got to work with each other on a very, very large rail project.
Nice.
Well, it was very large for me. Like, Gordo was probably chump change, that one. It was like 77 miles.
Yeah, 77 is large scale, so
cool.
It's good.
We'll get into that here in just a minute, but let's kind of start from the beginning here, Gordo. So born and raised in Detroit. What was it like growing up there? You know, how do you think that environment kind of shaped your work ethic and mindset? You know, they always talk about the Midwest work ethic. I firmly believe it's a thing. What say you?
I believe it's a thing because the auto industry and growing up in the 60s and 70s in Detroit, the auto industry was king. So blue collar was a really big thing. Working with your hands and being involved. I think that is the foundation. For me, it was the foundation of work ethic and actually doing the stuff and not talking about it. So it was whether you, I grew up. My dad's a former film producer, and so
Really?
you had lots of different opportunities. But you were never sitting behind a desk doing things. You were always involved, and the hands-on application was a big deal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you attended Lansing Community College. Did you get a degree there that kind of set you on the path of your surveying and geospatial career?
So when I went to Lansing, I originally started out as I thought I was going to be an architecture major, and I had to take this technical elective class
There's
called,
another one.
and I had no idea what surveying was. And but so I take the class, and all of a sudden, we're out in the park with levels, dumpy levels, and we're chaining and all kinds of stuff. And I had a real fascination with construction work. Growing up, I wanted to get into the construction industry, and so this technical elective I had to take my first semester changed everything, because I immediately, within that first semester, I went back to the counselors and everything else, and like, I'm switching my major. I'm going from architecture to civil engineering, because that's where all the survey classes were. And so I mean, from the get go, just because it was, got me outside, which is where I wanted to be. That was the big thing. And the funny part of it is, one of my school buddies, my elementary school buddies, his dad owned a survey business.
Mm.
And I remember his brothers coming home, and they had these little leather pouches on their side with these little red and white target things on there. Never asked him, never talked about what his dad did. I didn't know anything about surveying until I took that first class. And but
Nice.
that changed the course.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's interesting how Gordo and I took very similar paths to becoming the influential land surveyors that we are.
Yeah, but at some point he diverted into an expert, respected person in his field.
Mm-hmm. And I just became a podcaster.
Yeah, and then you just became a podcaster. Oh, it's interesting how that things work out, isn't it?
It really is. It absolutely is. So when did you decide that, surveying was going to be a career for you?
While I was in college, taking the courses, I got pretty serious about it. Just kept taking the courses and taking the math stuff. And I wanted to do a survey job. And in the early 80s, when I was there, surveying was a seasonal thing at best in the state of Michigan. So, like, many other Michiganders and Midwest folks, I headed down to Texas right after I graduated. It was exploding, and I literally answered an ad, a listing, a job listing in a paper, and I've never turned back from it.
Nice. So right now, Russ mentioned it earlier, you guys connected over a rail project, and I know that's kind of your forte now, but what did your career look like up until you started, really getting entrenched in doing rail surveys?
I initially, when I started, obviously worked on a field crew, worked my way up from rodman to party chief and that, but most of the work in Dallas started out as land development work. Doing the big boundary surveys, the topo surveys, and then developers come in, and you start laying out subdivision, construction layout. Residential land development was the path for the better part of 8, maybe 10 years, and then got into the highway side and started chasing the DOT evergreen contracts, and doing route surveys, and then parcel plats, legal descriptions for acquisition. In and around Dallas, in its development, in the development, we got involved with doing big route surveys for sanitary sewer systems. And you had to go and acquire the land, the same kind of land acquisition thing. And so we transitioned out of the firm that I was with. We transitioned out of the development stuff, and got mostly into the public sector stuff with acquiring easements and right of ways and those types of things.
So how did you, what was your first rail related project? And, at what point did you decide that, this is really interesting?
In the early 2000s, the firm that I'm currently with, it's a big A&E firm, and we had a lot of highway work, and then all of a sudden that just kind of, slowed down a bit. And we had an office manager that was really good at wheeling and dealing with other offices within the organization. In 2004-ish, there was a big rail project with CSX between Jacksonville and Chicago, where they wanted to increase the capacity along their main line between Chicago and Jacksonville. And the only way to do that is to put in these things called passing sidings. So it's a siding that is a minimum of 3 miles in length or 6 miles in length. And they, trains pull over, slow trains pull over and others pass, or oncoming trains, you pull over so an oncoming train can pass or whatever. And our firm got involved, and we did 45 of the 90 passings between Chicago and Jacksonville. But it was fascinating work. It was a little rough at the beginning because rail engineers really don't want highway guys working on their stuff because of the environment.
Funny.
And I think the only thing that really saved me from that was the track designers that I was working with. They had done a lot of their own surveying, and so everything was done conventionally. And I kept looking around. I kept looking up in the air, and because they were explaining to me how I was going to set traverses and all the other stuff, and I kept looking around, and they kept looking at me, and they're going, every time we look at you, you're staring off into space, and getting this. And I said, well, it was a contentious few hours, but I said, look, man, you want me to traverse, and I'm not even going to call it ballast. I'm just going to call it. You want me to start setting points in gravel, and how secure are those? How stable are those going to be? I want to do this with GPS because you got wide open sky. And, away we went, and they had never done it that way. And so we came to a compromise, and so we worked on those. Eventually I left the firm and went to a small Midwestern firm, but I worked for the organization for the next 5 years as a survey subconsultant because that's all I wanted to do. And it were always long-term type of projects. And so I stayed with it, and conventionally surveyed railroads until 2009 or 10ish.
Oh.
Wow.
And I'm just curious, just to take a step back, you mentioned that, the highway, the rail designers don't want to work with highway guys because it's a different environment. Can you talk a little bit about what makes it different and challenging that you just can't go from highway to rail? Like, what makes it that different environment?
I was initially introduced to the differences between the two environments when I was in college, when you start learning the math. And so the instructors talked about, there's two forms of geometry, there's right angled, trig and all that stuff, where your curves, and you have point of curve and point of tangency and all that stuff. And that's what we're going to talk about, because railroads, their curves are completely different. And
non-tangential, or what they call them?
But it's worse than non-tangent. They're spiral. They're spiral curves, and you do not have a defined radius point. The radius point continuously moves. So in the rail space, when you're going down the track and you're tangent, you're going to go around the curve, you can't take off in a tangent curve and go around it like your kid's train set. If you go around the curve too fast, the train falls off the track. So in the real world, you go from tangent to spiral to curve to tangent. So you have to transition in and out of. You can't go into a straight curve without going through a spiral, or come out without going. So the geometry is way different.
Got to tell you about our friends at Diamondback Land Surveying. DBLS was born out of a vision to create a company that would redefine excellence in the land surveying profession.
Our good friend Trent Keenan definitely does that.
That he does.
Today, they stand proud, having transformed that vision into a reality. Over the years, they have not only shaped the landscape of our industry, but also forged lasting relationships with our cherished clients, supportive friends, and invaluable employees.
Looking ahead, the future is bright for Diamondback Land Surveying. They stand poised to embrace new technologies, adopt innovative methodologies, and continue pushing the boundaries of excellence in our field.
To find out more, go to diamondbacklandsurveying.com. Hexagon, one of the new kids on the block.
That's right. Well, for us.
For us, yeah.
Yes.
Hexagon is the global leader in digital reality solutions combining sensor, software, and autonomous technologies.
Yeah, their solutions free their customers to harness the rapidly increasing amounts of data, putting it to work to boost efficiency, productivity, quality, and safety across industrial, manufacturing, infrastructure, public sector, and mobility applications.
Hexagon's strategy targets the rapidly widening gap between the enormous amounts of data being created and the world's ability to harness it. To find out more, visit hexagon.com. Yeah, I've had the opportunity to work on a couple of rail related jobs, more for like right away determination, that type of thing. And it's a whole nother world. And like, I guess I still don't understand why they have to be so complicated with the spiral curves. Why don't they just make the radius bigger? Why do you have to have a spiral curve?
Just to keep the train on the tracks. The centrifugal force of going around the standard curve, you have to feather it in there. Otherwise, all the lay on the side. And the other challenge with railroading, and it's more prevalent today than it was back in the early 2000s, and it's only going to get tighter, is you can't work in that rail space without what they call flag protection.
Yep.
You can't step in there. It's not like, hey, we won't get close to the track. No, once you cross the fence, technically you have to have that. Then the other challenging part is a lot of transit railway corridors and facilities are all considered critical infrastructure. And most times you need to have the TWIC card, which is a background check and everything to work in those. Yeah. And so you have to be super efficient. You have to have lots of planning, and you got to have lots of plan Bs, because it never goes as planned. Russ and the team found out it never goes plan A.
Yeah.
It never goes plan A.
Yeah. And then the other challenge is it's like, and I've heard people say that it's like the authority that the railroad has is just one step below that of God.
I was just gonna say, for all intents and purposes, they are God. Like, they are their own government kingdom. They even and they flex it easier than like the real government can. I feel like even like which is and also the strictest safety sites I've ever been on are always rail jobs. Like I've done some where, we're doing a bridge and they had a guy, that would cross. And if you walked across those tracks with your phone, you got one warning. The second time they booted them off the site permanently from whatever company it was from.
One of the things that people don't really realize, whether it's transit or freight, when those trains come by you, they make a lot of noise. But when you're actually working in there, you don't hear them. Really, you don't hear them.
Wow.
They'll come up on you much quicker than you ever think. And these are just massive machines. There's nothing sexy about railroading. It's brute strength, guys. It's big thought, like go ride a transit system. In a lot of my experience in Russ's would be, ride a transit system on the East Coast. And you get on a train and the jerking at the stopping or the starting. In cars, you would call that whiplash. In transportation, it's just like, oh, we're just getting started, or we're coming to a stop. I mean,
but you're happy when that happens on a train. Yeah. You're like, oh, the train's moving.
Yeah, but the scenario is, you like roadways, trains come in all directions all the time, and they're not loud. They're not nearly as loud as people think they are. And your head. I know it's the same on a highway, but you don't get many chances in a rail environment because you don't have space like you do on a highway right away.
Sure.
Clear zones and all that stuff. It's not that somebody can't transition into it. I obviously did, but it's a different environment. You got to have a ton of respect for it.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, good job security for you though.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So speaking of, go ahead, Russ, go.
I just wanted real quick. I just always wanted to know how accurate, like there's a show, Hell on Wheels. I don't know if
Yes.
you saw it. How
Yes.
accurate was like the surveying part? When they went, obviously someone laid out the rail for them. Like, do you know anything more about the history of how railroad was surveyed?
No, I really
I
don't.
don't know.
The only thing I know of as far as history is in the Western United States, after the Louisiana Purchase and stuff, and trying to take territories and turn them into states, they all had to be surveyed before they could receive, become a state. And in the railroads, the government struck a deal with the railroads so to help with the surveying of the territories. And the thing was, for every section they surveyed, they were given a section.
Wow.
That's a good incentive.
That's why they have so much land that they've never given back.
Wow.
Wow.
That is crazy. I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, that's cool. I was hoping
Yeah.
some little knowledge like that.
Yeah, the whole geometry thing. No, I don't know how they were able to make that so accurate, but I do know that the railroad companies were huge in surveying land for the government to define states. And they couldn't pay them, so they did a land swap. Every section they surveyed, they got a section.
Wow.
But according to that show, the two ends, and they met in the middle in the golden spike. So they weren't off somehow. It connected. So it must have been pretty dead on.
Well, thank you, surveyors.
Yeah, every once in a while you need a little pat on the back.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about at least a couple really cool projects you've worked on, Gordo. One that you mentioned in your bio was the Penn Station underground surveying that you did. Talk about that experience just a little bit, and kind of what challenges and what you were doing there.
Sure. So New York Penn Station is the busiest rail station in the United States. So there's just a ton of traffic that comes in between Amtrak itself and then all the transit agencies, Long Island Railroad, Metro North, New Jersey Transit, all that stuff. It's a huge place. And for years, bits and pieces of the station of the station had been surveyed. So and I did not know this, I learned this really quickly. So New York Penn Station, of course, it's all underground, but above it is Madison Square Garden. Okay, so there's this big facility that I've only, prior, because I didn't travel a whole lot until I started working in the Northeast Corridor. But when I came out of Penn Station, I looked up and it's like, oh, I've seen this building hundreds of times on television for basketball games or hockey games or whatever. Yeah. But the track level of Penn Station is 3 stories below the street surface.
Wow.
And there are several what they call storage yards there. There are 11 platforms there, and you've got it's and then they exit by going north to the Hudson River portal, and then they go south to the East River portal. There's about 35 miles of track inside Penn Station.
35 miles?
Unbelievable.
With all the yard tracks and all the special track work, what they call ladders to divert the trains to all of the platforms and that, but all the yard tracks, all that stuff. Yeah, there's a ton of track miles in there. So they had tried several attempts at conventionally surveying all this facility underground, and they did pieces and parts, and they tried stitching it together, and it never came together. And then they tried, Amtrak themselves tried a mobile application, but the problem, the systems that they were using didn't have the ability to, they weren't properly, they didn't have, good IMUs and other sensors. So as you go through Penn Station, you never get a direct shot from, hey, I'm coming in from Jersey and I'm gonna come out in Queens. You're gonna get stopped somewhere along the way because of just how the station works.
Huh.
And when you stop and you don't have all the right remote sensing equipment, your data just you got nothing really. So
Wow.
we had there are a lot of retired Amtrak guys that work at where I am, and they were pushing this because we had great success outside with things. And I actually when I heard about the project, I actually went and worked on an inspection crew so that I could recon the station. And I went down and I took probably 900 photos so we could see how this all worked and all the different pieces. And then we have our LiDAR partner, our sub consultant. They started running. We had to work directly with Regal to figure out how long we could work underground without a GPS fix.
Wow.
And so we worked in tandem with them to figure out, hey, we can work. If you start with a good GPS fix before at street level, we could go about 60 minutes before we needed another GPS fix. The IMU and the
No
DMI
kidding.
would carry you for about 60 minutes. So
Crazy.
we went through and you start looking at where are we going to come into the station and how are we going to traverse it and we broke the station up into segments, and we literally built timetables to figure out how much track we could do. Here's the speed we're going to go, and how we're going to make these movements through there. And we came up with a system that said we came in on what's called the Empire Line, which is a little it's northwest of the portal is northwest of the station. And we figured out it would take us 7.5 minutes to drive in on the Empire Line. We could scan 45 minutes, and then we needed 7.5 minutes to get out so we could work for 60 minutes.
Wow.
But we had to figure out the combinations of how you maneuver around these areas and build this stuff in blocks so that we would only work for an hour, and then we'd go and get a 15-minute fix, and then we'd come back in. And then we had to we brought in all the survey control, and then we targeted the whole station, obviously. And then we did we static scanned all the platforms, and we actually flushed out all of the concepts that Regal told us about with planar adjustment, because our data was really, we had lots of targets.
Yep.
And our data was really good. But if you think of your data, it's kind of a clothesline. And then we started doing the planar adjustments on the platform edges and the columns and the utility boxes and all that kind of stuff. We were able to tighten up that streamline because the terrestrial data was so good on the platforms. But we spent a lot of time coordinating with Amtrak so that we could make all of these hour movements, 7.5 minutes in, 45 minutes around the station, and 7.5 minutes out. One of the things that we learned through this process was your high rail vehicle needs to be shunted so that it shows up on the dispatch board. The dispatchers can see it on the big board so that you can work around trains. So we didn't have to divert any revenue trains. So we sat with them and all the stuff. Here's the timetables. Here's where we're going to be. And working with the dispatcher to be able to move us into an area where we weren't going to disrupt revenue train service, or go to areas where revenue train service was going to be, it could be diverted to other platforms or whatever. But it was all communicated and orchestrated with them. But we had to come up with we had to meet their standards to make that happen.
So the logistical planning was ridiculous. Like you said, it was orchestrated. It had to be like clockwork in order for this to be a successful mission.
Right. Because one of the things, actually, so we put this together and we looked at, our plan called for 4 nights of 4 hours a night. Because they'll tell you, yeah, you're going to work the overnight shift, and we work from 10 to 6 in the morning, and you really only get from like midnight to 4.
Yeah.
Because of the way it's set up. And so we had 4 nights set up. We all agreed to 4 nights. And then somebody at Amtrak recognized that it's like, hey, we got a holiday coming up, Martin Luther King holiday coming up. There's going to be reduced traffic and everything else.
Yeah.
We're going to give you 16 continuous hours on Martin Luther King Day, which is the same as 4 4-hour shifts for you. You guys need to do it over that 16-hour period. And,
Wow.
and we spent the weekend making sure that plan was going to work, where we had 16 1-hour trips in and out.
Jeez.
You got to have, you've got to have good, reliable systems and people, and you got to be committed to it. And we were very fortunate.
Hopefully it was a T&M job, because I couldn't imagine trying to put together a fee for something like this.
Most of our rail work is all lump sum.
You're
Really?
you're such a BD guy now. You don't even think about project execution. You just think, oh, how's that proposal going to look? Because then you just get to hand it off.
Hey, I want to set my folks up for success.
Yeah, right.
You can always tell people who have worked on a rail versus when they haven't, because they know, like, certain things, like you touch the burner and it's hot. Like, you learn that
right.
Every lesson costs money that you learn on rail jobs.
Every lesson costs
It requires
money. I love that.
What do they say? Experience is free, but it costs a lot. So I think that's more so for rail.
But you have to you have to have backup plans, and you have to be very flexible and accommodating, because you'll ultimately, if you're flexible and accommodating, those guys that are at a very high level, you get the executives that, oh, this is all going to happen, we're going to give you whatever you need. And you get down to the operations guys, and the operation guys look at you and they shake their head and they're like, this is never going to work like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so you spend a lot of time coaching them, going, well, we could work it like this and it'll help you. You really spend a lot of time, you invest a lot of time in goodwill, and you're you're always appreciative when they give you something.
So how and when did the what we'll call rail mapping transition into mostly LiDAR and mobile LiDAR? Like, when did that happen and how did that go? Was it the ugly stepchild for a little while, or was it immediately adopted?
I will tell you that I'm not going to say that I was I was the leader of it, but I was.
Oh, it's okay. Everybody else on this show a little bit elevates their their experience a little bit, so it's okay to brag.
Because of my conventional surveying and railroading, when I first saw mobile LiDAR on tracks, I was giddy. I was literally giddy about it, and I'm like, we got to, I found it. I found how we're going to do this. And I convinced one of the Southwest companies. I convinced them, when they built the 4th mobile LiDAR program in the country, I convinced them to build a high rail truck. Because I didn't want to compete when we were doing this. I did not want to compete with all the people in 2009, 2010. I didn't want to compete with everybody else in the highway space.
Right.
I wanted to do something different. And so I had seen a demo through Optech that was done on a little rail yard in Tulsa. And they actually gave me a copy of that data.
Oh, wow.
And I took it back to the firm I was with at the time, and we did aerial mapping. So we had TerraSolid, and the guys knew what to do with LiDAR data, and we started doing it. We started processing that data, and I in turn took all these examples, and I sent them to the rail guys that I knew, and I said, hey, I got a new way of doing this. And so it was I've never looked back from it. It's the only way that I was familiar.
What were some of those early logistical challenges? I mean, I'm sure it wasn't just, okay, yeah, let's get all this LiDAR and it solves everything. I'm sure it was a little bumpy at first.
Yeah, it's you have to be very open to what rail designers, track designers want. You know, you have to know what a point of switch is, and you have to know what a half-inch point of frog is. You have to understand all of the trackside features that they're looking for, you know, signals and bungalows and, you know, those features, you know, like curves and guardrails. Some of those features, you have to understand how they connect together. And you got to ask a lot of questions because they'll talk to you like you're going to know this. And it's like, what the hell is a half-inch point of frog?
Yeah.
And they'll look at you like, you're really going to do my work and you don't know what a half-inch point of frog is? It's a little tough. The other challenge is, the biggest challenge is when you go to put a vehicle on the track and you go to do that, you've got to be on, because it's not like, hey, I'm going to pull over on the side here, or I'm going to go to the next ramp and I'm going to spin around. I'm going to do that again. You don't do that option.
Yeah. There's no turning around and trying that one again.
No, not till you get to the Green Crossing.
Yeah, you know, and you have to, and you have to think differently. Like you make two passes. You always make two passes on the track. I don't care that they're 13 feet apart. Each one of those tracks, you make two passes. So if you're thinking about it, it's like, okay, I'll drive down there, I'll turn around, I'll come back. Well, you don't turn around on the rail. You do that in a reverse move. Okay? That works. Okay, so Russ has done it for us. Drive down this track for 20 miles. Then throw it in reverse and come back 20 miles. And, you know, and then you've got to get all of the sidings and all of the other things. So you're literally, you know, have to keep track on a track chart that is the road map of the railroads of where did we go, because you're not going to automatically get that reverse move backwards. Like Russ knows this. Hey, we're going to drive from point A to point B, and we'd really love to come back to point A. And they're like, ain't happening tonight.
Yep.
Wow. That's crazy.
What about, my shift's over in 15 minutes, so no. They're like, that, yeah. That's what they say to you.
You know, and so you that part of it, it's not, because you have such limited time there. That's the problem. That's why people won't venture into it, is because you're on the clock, and the buzzer's going to ring and you're done, period.
You have no choice.
Right.
So how much more prep time do you think goes in, preparation do you think that goes into a project like that versus just a traditional, you know, highway project?
Well, you'll spend 30 of your mission planning in that's a 30 or 40% increase automatically.
Wow.
Yeah. It's so much more coordination.
Talk a little bit about that, Russ.
I feel bad for these, you know, these companies that want to get into rail and don't know. They don't have the knowledge and the wisdom that somebody like Gordo has. And they're putting a proposal together to do this LiDAR collect, and they have no idea.
Oh, yeah.
The challenges they're getting into. And their fee comes in, you know, way down here. And then, you know, Gordo's fee comes up here where it should be, right? Oh man, it's, that's.
And the other thing is, they don't really understand, and Russ can attest to this also. There is as anybody that's in the mobile LiDAR space knows, the survey control and the targeting and all of that stuff, that doesn't change. That's still the massive part of your fee.
Sure.
But then you go but all the railroad, all your clients see, all your rail clients see is oh, you're going to high rail down there and back and you're done. And, you know, I mean, I have executives that say, oh yeah, we can scan that in 2 days. Yeah, we can scan that in 2 days, but we're going to spend 2 weeks or 2 months putting in all the survey control.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing affects LiDAR scanning, whether it's UAV, mobile, terrestrial, any of them. Like, it's the control. The control is what wildly changes the price, how much control you need for your accuracy.
Yeah.
And on a rail, you have to do quiet time basically to do quiet, which is like you have a flagger, or it's during train off hours, and that's that's the only time you can go in and set control, like within 25 feet or whatever of a track, depending on what line it is.
And the logistics are crazy. So that's a great lead in, Russ. Talk about the process, when you're doing a project like this, from the collection and the processing and the extraction, and how do you manage these what have to be massive files?
That's a great question. So it takes a lot of it takes a lot of coordination, like Gordo said. So you end up talking, you have a point of contact at the rail, and it can be frustrating because you can have plans to go, and let's say you're supposed to meet at 11 o'clock at night, and you're supposed to scan from 12 to 4 in the morning. Everything I'm saying is for the Northeast Corridor, by the way. I'm sure it's different when you get west, and Gordo could attest to that. But when you're in like New York City area, they'll tell you, you could come out and scan last train's 11:30 or whatever. You go out there, your flaggers might not show up. You'll get onto site, and then you'll start calling around and be like, yeah, the flaggers we don't have a flagger. And it's like, thanks for telling us before we drove 3 hours down here. And then, you have to get stuff inspected for any railroad. The high rail rentals fail about 30% of the time for just like random lights and everything. And then once you get into the mobile scanning, there's a couple ways you can go about it. Ideally, it's everything's dictated by the rail. So who you're working for and where, because either, ideally you get nice clean shots, but that almost never happens, and you end up piecemealing it. And so then, like Gordo said, you really want to befriend the people that you're working with so that you could try to get an equitable split for how you want to register. Like for me, I would like to register all the passes, but equal to each other, where they're next to each other. I don't like I've been forced to do all over the place before, and with Gordo, and it's not fun. It's not a fun process.
Yeah.
So,
an example is you get into 4 mainline territory tracks. So you have 4 tracks out there. You'd really like to process those 4 tracks, but you only get the first 1 or 2, and then Russ would come back because of access time. He might have to wait 10 days, 3 weeks, a month, and then he gets the other 2 tracks. So now he has the 4 tracks, but your targeting has been there for a month. You hope that it's still there. And so we had areas where Russ had processed 10, 12, 15 miles of data on a track. Okay, I need this track, man. I need this track because our guys have got to start designing. They want to figure out, they want to take the data and they want to come up with they want to define the alignment. And that goes against how Russ and anybody that does it wants to do it, because I want track 1 and I'd like track 2 and track 3 and track 4 because all of these scans are stitched together.
How do you, these are obviously very linear type projects, right? Versus, surveying, 1,000 acres. These are very linear projects. Is the quality control process different on a project like that versus mapping 1,000-acre parcel?
I don't think so.
No.
Well, if you're doing it for Gordo, it's going to be different probably for Gordo. Gordo is a thorough person, so his QA process is thorough.
You start with the primary, let's take the job that Russ did for us. It was a 75-mile stretch of the Hudson line coming out of, starting pretty much at the north end of Manhattan Island, and then it ran 75 miles toward Albany. So he and Steven came together, and it's like, okay, let's build a primary control network. So we don't want any baseline over 5 miles in length. All right, so you divide up that 75 miles into 5-mile intervals, and you primary control. You set those points, you set those monuments, and then you static survey those. And of course, you're tying into cores and virtual networks and other NGS monuments that you find, so that that's good. Okay. And you can look at all those residual values. Yes, it's a line. It's not a shape, but you're still following quality processes to ensure the values that are being published. You follow that up with running a 75-mile level loop.
Yep.
Wow.
And differential, digital levels, but you're still differentially leveling 75 miles.
Crazy.
Yeah. That was cool. Like it's, big control networks like that. For me, at least, you don't see them often unless they're with rail like that.
Yeah.
But the quality control on a 1,000-acre boundary survey, you're going to have a nice geometric shape. It's all, you got something, but you're going to run those same procedures on this line.
Uh-huh.
The only thing that you may think about along the way is when you're running your differential levels, are you gonna run a closed loop? Are you gonna run up and come back?
Right.
Or are you going to, put your faith in, your NGS control along the way? In the end, Russ and his crew, we broke this down into segments, and it's like, hey, they broke it down into 7 10-mile segments, and it's like we ran up 10 miles and we came back 10 miles.
Wow.
So what's this is a little out of the box, but what's what's the future look like for rail development, and what are the needs out there? Is it like you said, where they just need to expand capacity and put a lot of passing things in, or is there a lot of new track where's this going? It's not going anywhere. Obviously, it's critical infrastructure, but what are the needs?
I think it's a really good question. I would think that these railroads, they would want annual LiDAR collects of their lines, right? For a number of different reasons, asset management being one of them. But
I didn't ask you, but okay, that's a good point.
Oh, sorry. Next, please. I'm just a podcast.
So one of the projects I listed for you guys was Amtrak's reference surfacing program.
Yeah. Talk a little about that.
So the Northeast Corridor has about 12, and think of the Northeast Corridor running from DC to Boston. Okay. And then you have all you have 7 or 8 transit agencies that connect into that, but there's 1,200 miles of track between DC and Boston. And Amtrak, we did that project because Amtrak wants to increase capacity in the Northeast Corridor. And the only way that you're going to do that is by running your trains faster. There's no room.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Very, very limited room to put in additional tracks. Okay? That's not going to happen. So in order to run trains faster, you have to have better track geometry.
Okay.
You need better track geometry so that you can run the trains faster. And when you're running the trains faster, you're not beating the crap out of them, because bad geometry tears up the train sets. Tears up the track, tears up the train sets.
So is that, so I know you did the whole Northeast Corridor, which is like 1,200 miles, I believe, right?
Yep.
Corridor?
Yep.
Yes. So, and then I saw about a month ago that now they have from Boston, basically the entire Northeast Corridor now has those, what's the name of that train line?
The Acellas?
Yes. So is that what's preventing us from building? So we need to fix the tracks across the country, the infrastructure, in order to get more of like the high-speed trains, is what you're saying. Those type of.
It's my opinion. It is my personal opinion that we in the United States will never see true high-speed rail.
I was going to ask about that.
And I say that because if you look at true high-speed rail in China or, in some parts of Europe, the geometry is very different than what we see here. The curves are longer and all of that kind of stuff. Understand that our rail system here in the United States is based on in industry or BNSF, the big seven guys, all freight rail. Sorry, that was what I was looking for.
Yep.
It's based on freight rail. Freight rail runs at about 70 mile an hour. Okay. So when you look at rail corridors, they're basically built in that 70 to 100 mile an hour range. To go 200, your geometry is completely different. So we're not acquiring land and eminent domain and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Those are hurdles that nobody is ever going to face. We're going to have to work with what we have. So what reference surfacing did was, hey, we're going to map our corridors. We're going to map our corridors and we're going to figure out where we can change the geometry without having to make, we're not going to move roads and we're not going to move bridges. Here's all our constraints.
Yep.
And we're going to do the best that we can to increase the speeds. So the target is really for the Northeast Corridor and here in the US, the target is 160 miles an hour. That's the ultimate top end speed because that will fit in the corridors that we have.
Yep. Gotcha.
When they talk about high speed we're not talking about 200. What we really want to do is have higher speeds.
Just higher speeds.
Yeah.
You can get on an Amtrak train right now and you can do 120.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to go from Detroit to Chicago or something. I'm going to do 120, or I'm going from Boston to New York. You get on a train that's going to do 100, 120. That's, and it's like, holy shit, why do we need to go this much farther or faster? But you're not going to get there because of the restrictions of land, and you're not going to acquire land. It's just way too expensive.
Yeah.
So that's why we just built the Bright Line in Florida from Orlando down to all the way down, but it only peaks out at speeds at a certain time, like the high speed, only a couple spots for very briefly. So that must be why, right? They couldn't get the geometry they need to go any faster in those areas. Oh, all right.
Interesting.
The All Aboard Florida program, which runs from Miami to, it was one of the projects I worked on, the 200 miles from Miami to Orlando. That's an old freight rail. And you all of the, down there, you've got all the water canals and everything else. It's like bridge after bridge and road crossing after road crossing after road crossing. You're not going to elevate all that stuff. You're just going to, here's where we're going to go.
Right.
So the environment dictates how fast we're going to go.
Monson Engineering.
Yeah.
Love these guys. Monson Engineering is a leading supplier of surveying, GIS mapping, scanning solution products for the design build industry in the Intermountain West since 1974.
Wow, been doing it a while, mainly because they pride themselves in being your one-stop shop throughout all phases of your project, planning to completion.
From drones to lasers, total stations, or high-accuracy GPS equipment, they have what you need when you need it. To find out more, simply visit monsonengineering.com.
Let's talk about Aerotech Mapping for a little bit. Aerotech Mapping has been supplying high-quality geospatial solutions, services, and support for the AEC industry since 2002.
They have indeed. They also specialize in large-scale design-level photogrammetry for a variety of sectors within the AEC industry, including aviation, transportation, energy, commercial development, mining, public works, and wastewater, just to name a few.
Yeah, that's right. At Aerotech Mapping, they take great pride in the work that they do, all created by an amazing team of professionals. To find out more, visit atmlv.com.
Interesting. So you'll have these segmented parts of higher speed rail, like, for example, the Bright Line from Vegas to Rancho Cucamonga, for example. That's being built as a high speed rail.
Yeah, that is because of development and all the other stuff. That could be a true high speed rail
because it's flat through the desert and they're not utilizing an old system. It's new, right?
It's all new land act and the whole bit. So yeah, you could see that.
Gotcha.
But most of your stuff, no, it's going to stay in this range. And then understand that your long distance trains, there are agreements between Amtrak and the 7 class 1s because they share track. So the 7 class 1 operators, BNSF, CSX, Norfolk Southern, and that, they're compensated for allowing Amtrak to run on their rails. Well, they're not interested in going, hey, we need 200 mile an hour track in here. No, this is all you get, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh, wow. Learn something new every day, Sean.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. So, gosh, are we at an hour already?
Yeah.
Holy
Time
crap.
happens.
Unbelievable. I do have one question I want to make sure I ask just because we got Russ on here too. In your bio, you mentioned that you're passionate about developing relationships with subcontractors, subconsultants, and your position, with your company allows you to subcontract out a lot of survey and LiDAR collection work. And since you do a lot of that, what makes a good partner, when you're considering subcontracting that work out? We can have Russ drop off.
Yeah. We can drop Russ off, to be honest. Or use Russ as an example of what not to do.
Present company withstanding.
Russ and his partner Andy, they fit the bill. So the A&E firm that I work for, when we're kind of at an advantage because they actually, it's like, hey, Gord, we're giving this to, here's this survey thing and you take care of that for us.
Mm-hmm.
Where traditionally they would, they spin the wheel, throw a dart, whatever, and we're going to use this firm or that firm or what have you. And it's like, no, you have to build relationships so that you get the same, you build something with folks so that, there's next time. These aren't one-offs.
Uh-huh.
And the biggest thing for me personally in building those relationships is I'm the liaison between the design team and the surveyor. So I can translate all of that engineering design gobbledygook and put it in layman's terms for people like Russ.
Yeah.
Because I see the bigger, when I worked directly in the survey business, you got blinders on and hey, here's the definition of surveying. And that works to a point, but when you're looking at bigger projects, these bigger transportation projects, you need to understand that it's a piece of it. And having a surveyor making the request to subconsultants, I know what it is that I want, and I'm hopeful that they're receptive to altering their program to fit our needs. And it works a lot of the time, and there are times where it's like, no, man, you just tell us what you want, and we're going to drop it off on the doorstep like a quart of milk, and that doesn't work. We are very interactive. The way that we acquire subconsultant services and interview subconsultant services, we want them to be open to what we're the way that we want it. Like we have our own specs for accuracy in that. And some subconsultants like Russ and Andy, they're like, great, now we know what you want. Yep. And they're more than happy to do that. And they're more than happy to interject back to us and we can alter the program, but it's just an interesting process because a surveyor from an A&E firm is asking for the services and not just some engineer that's trying to tell you how surveying is going to happen.
Right.
And if you're open to that, if you're open to communication and conversation, it makes that relationship grow. And it's easy to turn around and say, we're going to do it again.
Well, I mean, besides successfully dumbing it down enough for somebody like Russ to understand, it does sound like
no small feat.
Yeah, right. But it does sound like what you said earlier about being flexible and being able to adapt because, somebody like Russ has probably done it this way 1,000 times with 1,000 other clients, and they want to dictate, okay, this is what our deliverable looks like. Here's what you're going to get instead of, okay, let's just start from the beginning, how we do it. And every step along the way, they're willing to adjust to meet what your guys' needs are because it's completely different. I mean, your specs are completely different and everything's a different way to think about it. So,
yeah.
So that's what it sounds exciting to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's clarifying and confirming expectations, right? And it's like there's no reason to reinvent the wheel every time. I mean, this is the recipe for success. Follow it.
Right. But I guess the sentiment to all go back to how you said of people not getting into this kind of thing, I think that's because they go into it thinking they already know how to survey and they know what they need to do. and it's the other way around. It's like, no, that we're a blank slate. You tell us and we'll adapt for you instead of the other way around.
Yep. Don't be rigid.
Right. What do you have to say about that, Russ? Other than, the little shot I had at you. And your cat's tail.
I agree. And my cat, no, on me. Mabel. I thought I had the door closed. Sorry. No, I agree. And one thing, I work for other surveyors often, and I love working for knowledgeable clients, because then you can have, I don't want to say full transparency, but you can be more open about this, like what you're encountering. And they understand, obviously, and they can empathize and they can help you a lot of ways. Like when we ran into problems, Gordo was able to help because he understood what we were trying to do. And, like if plan A didn't work, bounce plan B, we would collaborate together. Like, hey, let's come up with this. Let's pivot to this, and you end up getting a partner more so than just someone you're working for. And that leads to really good, you end up trusting each other more than you would if it's just a jabroni that you're doing, like you said, dropped off the job or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head there with that. And that's been my experience as well.
I think to sum it up, Sean, is you may, folks have been doing something for a long time. Surveyors have been doing something for a long time. Is if you're willing to continue to learn along the way, or be open to learning or doing something new, it works every time.
Yep.
That's
into tried and true, and this is how it's going to be.
Yeah. Well, that's a scary concept to one of the most stubborn industry people that I can think of just stuck in their ways. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're exactly right. I can't argue with that.
I mean, sometimes it's a good thing because they're stubborn to the profession and what it takes to do it well, but the how is where you can still be flexible. The end result is still, accuracy and repeatability and all those things. It's just the how is a lot different.
Yeah.
It could be a lot different in a setting like this.
Absolutely. What else, guys? Anything else you want to get out there?
Well,
we talked
about we talked about LiDAR briefly. And Gordo did, I think, when you were away for a second briefly. Gordo was involved to some, I won't put words in his mouth, but worked with Ted and some other people with Topodot, right? Like you were the stage before Topodot became something. You kind of worked on some of the tools.
Yeah, very early on in early 2011, I had the opportunity to work with Ted and Maudy at Topodot, and we had a lot of input on the rail tools that you see within Topodot. So, like, hey, let's do track extraction. What does this look like? And I remember working with Maudy because he had figured out, he had developed the routine to do that. Except Maudy had everything on, he was doing the extraction, and you were setting your rail templates down on gauge lines. And the designers that I was working with at the firm, they were all about the rail head center line and not the gauge line, because they could figure that out. And Maudy was very insistent about it, the gauge line. And now pretty much everybody works off the gauge line. But I was very insistent about it needed to be the rail head center line. And so Maudy fixed it. He said, I'm going to give you the option to do this. But many of the tools there are a lot of tools within Topodot that myself and team members had a lot of input with, those being the clearance tools. Like, hey, I want to do clash detection. I want to be able to take a cross-sectional template of a train car body, and I want to attach it to the center line, and I want to pull it through the LiDAR data and see where I'm going to hit. And they'll reclassify the data so that you have that tool. And then there's another tool that uses the full car body template in the rail space and you attach that onto the center line, and you pull it through, and that full car body template takes into account the end overhang. So where the wheel centers, or what they call the trucks on the rail car, you're going to have, when you go around a curve, the ends of that car are going to swing wider, either outside or inside, depending on the curve. And then the other thing is the middle ordinate of the car is going to go into the center of the curve. So figuring out those two things, we had the team that I was a part of, we had an awful lot of back and forth with Ted and the TopoDot team in building those, which later on transferred. I think Bowdy and the team took it farther. And when you look at the tractor trailer trucks and all that kind of stuff, and getting them around, and the swing radiuses and that, but back in a lot of that stuff in the early days, I can remember sitting down shoulder to shoulder with Mowdy for sure.
Wow.
It's a lot of complex math going on there.
Oh yeah. It's hard to fathom.
Yeah. Yeah. You got anything else, Sean?
No, not.
Did you learn something today?
I did learn a couple things.
Absolutely did.
Yeah.
Absolutely did. Gordo, can't thank you enough for your time and for joining Geoholics. Been great conversation. Great getting to know you a little bit better for sure.
Absolutely.
And Russ, thanks for making this happen, making the introduction.
Absolutely.
What you got? You got one more question there, Sean?
Always.
Yep.
Gordo, we got one last question. We ask everybody at the end of the show, do you have a mantra that you live by?
I thought about that when you guys sent that to me. I just like it. I like getting up every day and getting my hands dirty. Let's participate.
I like that.
I have a lot of friends over the years, and there's a lot of people talking about retirement and that. And I have no desire to do that. I want to continue to work. I like learning new stuff. I'm well into my career, and I'm still looking to get licensed in additional states. And I still want to learn. I'm still open to learning. And the technology makes that easy to do. So I do. The mantra I can tell you is I want to get up in the morning and get my hands dirty.
I love it.
I like it.
All right.
Russ, you got anything else before we get out of here?
No, I just want to say, Gordo, I appreciate, you always, like you said, you always try to learn stuff too, but you're also very good about teaching and sharing your knowledge, which there needs to be a lot more of that in our industry. We could always use more of that. And you are always one of those people that's more willing to share whatever knowledge you have on a subject. So I always appreciate that personally.
Yeah. Invaluable.
Yep.
For sure.
I just don't know that there's I don't know that there's any real value in retaining that. It doesn't make my position any better. I will tell you that one of the people that I had the opportunity to work with in my career, and this was probably 15 years ago, when we were building the Force Mobile LiDAR program in the country, and it was working like hell. And we were trying to hire somebody, and I burned through candidates one right after the other. And the owner of the firm came to me and he goes, I'm taking over this process because you're killing us. And I said, well, and he goes, and you want to know why you're killing us? Because you're worried about hiring somebody smarter than you. You're always going to have a position here. Don't be afraid of people that are smarter than you.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it at the time, but I certainly, it didn't take me long to get it. And I have made great strides in my career because, you guys know better. I turned to Russ. Hey, Russ, I think you're smarter than I am because of the post-processing that you're doing. And when you come back and said, hey, I want to do this, I could have said, no, I want you to do it my way, but it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have worked like it did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. It's funny. Sean hired me once.
I did.
Yeah.
I'll
let that simmer.
That didn't work.
Is it just one stop, dot? You mean like that?
Yeah. That didn't work out. There won't be a second.
All right, guys. Well, again, Cornell, thank you so much for your time. This has been great. And thanks for everything you're doing for the profession and being a great mentor. It's awesome. Russ, thank you again as well. Good to see you, buddy. And what do you say? You want to get out of here?
Let's take us out.
All right, let's do that. Add value, make friends.
I do have one little thing.
All right.
It was Peter's birthday yesterday.
Happy belated
we all want to
birthday,
wish Peter happy birthday. We wish he has a great day. It was Australia,
whatever
so
day it is,
whatever day it is. But we always wish her the best and really happy for her.
Absolutely. Happy birthday, Peter. If anyone would like to be a guest on a future show, shoot us an email at info@thegeoholics.com. Getting a lot of requests here lately.
We are.
Yes. Huge thanks to our friends of the program that we mentioned earlier for 2026. We couldn't do any of this without you. Genesis, Turn It On Again, available everywhere. Until next time, everyone, a few takeaways. Every lesson costs money. I love that one.
Yeah.
Be flexible and accommodating. Another great tidbit of advice. Be open to learning. And lastly, get up and get your hands dirty.
Love it.
Most importantly, as always, be safe and healthy.